Hi, I'm Antonio Centeno. I'm the founder of Real Men, Real Style. Today, gentlemen, I'm going to give you guys 10 things you will never hear a stylish gentleman say. Now, I'm having a little bit of fun with this video. I think when we look back at our journey, and as you've probably been over the last few years, maybe the last few days, but you've been trying to become a better man, a better dresser. You understand that clothing is a vehicle to help you lead a better life. You're probably having to reframe your mindset. And so as you hear these things, you may have said them in the past, but think about what they mean. Each of these points, I'm going to try to explain why I think it's something that a sharp-dressed gentleman who has started to use clothing as a weapon to get what he wants out of life really should never have to say these things. You ready? Okay. So number one, only shallow people care about how you look. Now, I hear this all the time. A lot of people, they're like, hey, you shouldn't judge someone based off how they look. And if you look at that person, oftentimes, I think when they say things like that, it's more a reflection of them, not of others. And it's maybe they've reached a point where they've given up, where they feel, well, gosh, I just can't make a change in my life. When it comes down to it, guys, I've hit on the science. I've talked about all of these studies. I've got them over at Real Men, Real Style. We'll go into tons of detail there. Various studies. Dozens and dozens of studies. I've talked about experience. My time as a custom clothier, having dressed and built over 1,000 wardrobes for men all over the world. I have seen the transformation that happens when a man starts to care about his personal presentation. But for me, it's about mindset. It's about if you dress sharp, and I live in a town of 1,000 people, I don't have to dress very sharp. But I do when I go to meet my daughter's teacher, because my daughter's teacher is going to make a judgment on her based off of her impression of me. So I always put my best foot forward. Whenever I'm out running errands, I could run into a friend of my wife's who's going to make a decision about my wife or make a judgment based off of the type of man that she's married to. I respect myself. I dress sharp for my family. I dress sharp for my business and what it represents. So guys, don't buy into that. You dress sharp for yourself, have self-respect, and yeah, no, shallow people, everyone makes a decision based off of what we see. That's what enabled us as human beings to survive for a long time, and it's something that is not going to change. It goes into human nature. So, number two, excuse me, I've been waiting 30 minutes. Now, whenever I go to any restaurants, we don't do it very often. We usually eat at home, but when I do go out, I find that I'm given instant attention. We go in, we're a great looking family. All of my kids are dressed sharp, they're well behaved, and it's one of those things that people just say, you know, I don't know who these people are, but maybe they look like a VIP. They act like VIPs because I'm confident, and all of a sudden you're treated like a VIP. I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments, but have you ever noticed that when you dress sharp, how people treat you different? And it is something, it's almost ingrained in us that we have, and we still go back, we have classifications of people. We have visions in our head of what a success looks like. You dress like a success, you will be treated like a successful person. Number three, don't worry, you can trust me. So if people are having issues trusting you, it could be related to the way you're presenting yourself. Why is that? Well, imagine a guy walks in to a crowded room and he says, fire, get out of here. He's not dressed, he's naked. What are people going to think? We have a crazy man on here. Let's call the police, get this guy out. If he's dressed in a fireman's uniform and he says, get out, are we going to question him? No, because we attribute authority to the clothing the person is wearing. So understand that trust, persuasion, all of this can be affected by the way that we dress, by the colors we use. You guys know I've done that other video on the power of the color red. We've talked about the power of simple, presentation and smells. All of these things have to do with trust, with persuasion, with you being able to get people to listen to your story. So whether you're a salesman, whether you're running a nonprofit, this matters. Number four, I'm not a student. So if you go on to any of these campuses around the US or around the world, you'll find that students, they've got their own, it seems like, uniform. And that is an oversized t-shirt, jeans, and running shoes. Now, if you're a young man and you want to separate yourself from the pack, perhaps you're a junior, you're a senior, you're a sophomore looking for a great internship, step up the dress. Because if a student has, a professor, He's got 5 star students, and let's say you're one of them. And the only differentiator is the way that you present himself. Who do you think he's going to recommend when he's got a company rep waiting for him in the office who's looking to hire somebody or find someone great for the internship? He's going to say, hey, Douglas, because he knows you're well-dressed, you're well put together. He assumes that you're not going to embarrass him in front of this recruiter or this gentleman looking to fill this position for the summer, and you're going to have opportunity fall your way. Number 5. Sorry, I'd give you a coat if I had one. So one thing I like about dressing sharp is I put together versatile outfits. So there was a video I was just shooting earlier. I did not have this jacket on. I was simply just wearing this shirt, had the sleeves rolled. So I went from casual to all of a sudden business casual with one piece of clothing. I could actually step this down. So when you dress sharp, you actually allow yourself a bit of freedom to dress up and to dress down. And you can use your clothing however you so choose. So for me, I find that wearing a jacket, not only can I keep people warm, I can give it to my wife, give it to any of my kids, give it to a woman who perhaps is cold and looks cold and is there shivering. I also always carry my business cards in my jacket. I've got access, it gives me extra pockets where I can put things saying number 6. I'm successful. If you dress sharp, you don't have to say you're successful. People are going to assume you're a VIP. You go into a room and there's 5 gentlemen. All of them look the same. You're looking for the manager. How are you going to choose who the manager is? You're probably going to look at them and say, which guy, first off, looks the oldest? That's one of the things we default to. The other thing we default to is how a person is presented. So all you guys may be about the same age, and that's a good thing. When you're constantly mistook as the manager, or people assume, Jim, he always is well dressed. He should represent us. That's opportunity, gentlemen, falling in your lap. Point number 7, I'm not going to rob you. So I had one gentleman that went through my personal image system, and he talked about a story, how he had gone into a watch store, and they wouldn't even take the watches out. He was off of work. He worked in a really kind of an industrial job, and they were scared that he was just going to take it and run. They were like, well, sir, at this time, they give him an excuse. He came back dressed well. He actually had an interview for another job, and they had no problem. Same store, same people. They didn't even recognize him, and they took those watches out and put them out there so that he could look at them. And he's like, what's going on here? Your presentation matters. People make quick judgments on whether or not they should trust you, whether or not they, in a sense, want to put themselves in a position. If you're dressed sharp, you have authority. They've even shown that if you're wearing a suit and you're jaywalking, 3 times as many people are going to follow you. Number 8, I need to go home and get something nice on. A well-dressed man not only dresses well on a daily basis and pretty much has a versatile outfit, as I talked about earlier, but he's also got clothing at his office. You actually are prepared. It's one of those things you've thought through various situations so that you don't have to miss an opportunity by running home. I actually had a client when I owned my custom clothier. He loved dressing sharp, and he had a tuxedo because a couple times a year he would find excuses to use it. Turns out he was the only programmer whenever Bill Gates was in town. He worked for Microsoft in Austin, and it was one of those things that he was able to attend a black tie affair simply because he had what was needed when it was needed on a very short, it was like a 2-hour notice. He was the only programmer. He wasn't the best programmer, but he was the only programmer who had the actual right clothing for the event. I don't have anything to tie it down. Okay, so talked about the functionality of clothing, but a belt, little things, and there are other things that we as sharp-dressed men actually have. Oftentimes we have a very nice pen. We actually have, I've even used my pocket square here. I was in a church and a woman, needed to be able to cover her head. It was an Eastern Orthodox church, and I gave her my pocket square. But a belt can be used as a tourniquet. It can be used to tie down something in the back of your truck. I really like the functionality of clothing. Even your jacket, you flip it up, all of a sudden it becomes something that can protect you from the cold. Saying number 10, I feel strange looking this sharp. Are people looking at me? Guys, have the courage to be the best dressed man in the room. When you practice dressing sharp, it becomes normal for people actually to take notice. You walk with confidence, you feel better about yourself, and you can use style as a weapon to get what you want out of life. Guys, that's it. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. What saying did you feel I missed? What do you say, or do you find that you say now as a sharp-dressed man, or you don't say? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.